Agaya and Ubuntu friends, welcome. Thank you for joining us as we dive into some news about things going on in the world. Still trying to get myself organized properly now that everything went awry. Here we go. So I come to you at a time when things are once again expressing a little of the chaos and instability that is the nature of when and where we are. But it's important that we gather and that we talk about what this means to us and how we can work with what is true in the world right now and work toward a better future for everyone. So our usual process here, I'll offer a little commentary on some recent news items. I will walk us through upcoming events, suggest a few actions that you can take, and then take us into a little nature reconnection practice, giving you some ideas about eco-spiritual practices along the way. And then we may or may not talk about local events. And if I see anything in chat, I will try to share that. What is Novasutras about? Well, our mission is to enact change through eco-spiritual community. We are working to reawaken our deepest connection with the living world so that we can reclaim our joy, so that we can honor our pain, so that we can grow trusted relationships, and all of that in service of taking meaningful action in the world. All of that so that we might be of service to all life on earth. So, first to share a little of the news of the week, talking a little bit about some of the things that are really important for those of us who are engaged in eco-spirituality and eco-activism. And first, I want to share a little bit of news of success. This just came in from the group called Just Stop Oil. And I'm just going to quote from what they sent. They say, there were 27 days of our friends in the Netherlands blocking traffic on the A12 motorway has achieved a historic win. Despite police violence and 9,000 arrests, thousands of ordinary people stepping into the road again and again have forced the Dutch parliament to demand a phasing out of subsidies for oil, gas, and coal. 3 years ago, the Dutch population didn't know these subsidies existed. Now, 73% say they are in favor of abolition. This is how civil resistance works. So I know people can get frustrated about some of the tactics when it disrupts everyday life. But this is how it gets the attention that's required to make policy change. So congratulations to those activists. Thank you for the work that you did on behalf of current and future life. Thank you for this work that is ending the subsidies for oil, gas, and coal and moving us toward reducing climate harm and reducing the suffering that goes along with that. Next, of course, unfortunately, there is some news about that harm. The world is on fire. Now, these major wildfires in Indonesia are not exclusively attributable to climate change. There is a convergence of factors, not least of which is the El Nino ocean oscillation. Unfortunately, what that typically means in Indonesia, in this part of Southeast Asia where the orangutans live, so many other critically endangered species in these remaining tropical rainforests on the islands of Borneo and Sumatra in particular. When we have an El Nino pattern in the Pacific, the rains that would usually fall aren't as intense in this part of the world. And it begins to dry out in a rainforest, a place that's not well adapted to drying out. And because of that drying, fires that are set often to clear land for agriculture or pasturing of animals, those fires get out of control. And when they do, especially during dry times, they can set fire to the peat, this high carbon sort of proto coal that is usually under the wetlands and semi-wetlands that you will find in these tropical forests. The smoke from burning the forests themselves and the peat underneath the forest is incredibly intense, contains lots of harmful particles, almost all smoke does. And it's so pervasive. This obviously is a satellite image showing it covering much of the island of Borneo, which is a huge, huge island, but it doesn't stay there. It spreads up and across into Southeast Asia. I want to show you a little bit of, there's one. So this is just showing from early August to late September, these areas that were burned in Kalimantan, in the Indonesian part of Borneo. Again, this is enhanced satellite imagery. You can see how much land was burned and that there were active fires just a couple of weeks ago. Of course, this is not the only part of the world that has been suffering major fires this year. 2023, in some ways, is going to be remembered as the year of those fires. Unfortunately, that was true in 2019, 2020. And this was also true back in 2015, a previous El Nino in Southeast Asia. I was there at the time. I wasn't on Sumatra or Borneo. I was on Singapore, where the air quality was so bad. This was actually already getting a bit better. But there was one day when I went out and could not see across to that next building because of the concentrations of smoke from wildfires on Sumatra. When the air quality is that bad, sensitive people are much more likely to have respiratory distress incidents, asthma attacks, and it can contribute to a lot of other health complications for the most vulnerable people. Climate isn't the only thing, but climate is making this more extreme. Climate is making this worse. So it matters in people's health and lives today. And every degree of warming that we can reduce matters for people's health and lives in the future. Next, I wanted to just quote from an article that came out late last month. The World Scientists Warning, the behavioral crisis driving ecological overshoot. And I'll paraphrase here, but in their conclusion, they say that human-caused ecological overshoot stems from a crisis of maladaptive human behaviors. And continuing to quote them, while the behaviors generating overshoot were once adaptive for Homo sapiens, for our species, they have been distorted and extended to the point where they now threaten the fabric of complex life on Earth. Simply, we are trapped in a system built to encourage growth and appetites that will end us. And so the scientists writing this paper say, we call for an emergency, concerted, multidisciplinary effort to target the populations and value levers most likely to produce rapid global adoption of new consumption, reproduction, and waste norms congruent with the survival of complex life on Earth. They continue, the clock is ticking not only because the health of natural systems upon which we are utterly dependent is deteriorating, but also because broad-scale interventions are only possible when a society holds together and is capable of coherent action. As the effects of overshoot worsen, the likelihood of societal breakdown increases. We still have an opportunity to be proactive and utilize the intact systems we have in place to deliver a framework for shifting social norms and other necessities for addressing the behavioral crisis. However, the day may come when societal breakdown will make intervention impossible, locking the planet into an unguided recovery that may salvage much of nature, but be inhospitable to human life. Now, just a couple of weeks after that came out, this last week, you may know that there was an apostolic exhortation from Pope Francis, remembering that Catholicism is one of the world's most widespread religions, that many people follow and attend very closely to the decrees and letters issued by the Pope. So in this exhortation, the Pope acknowledged the drivers of climate change, that it's about human-caused greenhouse gas emissions, the burning of fossil fuels primarily. Acknowledged that this release of greenhouse emissions has been accelerating since 1990, even though we were well aware that it could contribute to climate change in 1990. And the Pope actually talks about the risks of nonlinear tipping point changes. So he calls on humanity to take swift and comprehensive action to deal with the climate emergency. And quoting now, our responses have not been adequate, while the world in which we live is collapsing and may be nearing the breaking point. He notes that bishops from the United States have said, our concern about climate change, which goes beyond a merely ecological approach, because our care for one another and our care for the earth are intimately bound together. Climate change is one of the principal challenges facing society and the global community. The effects of climate change are borne by the most vulnerable people, whether in the US, at home, or around the world. Bishops assembled for the Synod of Amazonia said something similar. Quote, attacks on nature have consequences for people's lives. And the Pope goes on to express bluntly that this is no longer a secondary or ideological question, but a drama that harms us all. The African bishops stated that climate change makes manifest a tragic and striking example of structural sin. Later, the Pope references Laudato Si that he issued around the time of the Paris Climate Agreement. He says, quote, I offered a brief resume of the technocratic paradigm underlying the current process of environmental decay. It is a certain way of understanding human life and activity that has gone awry to the serious detriment of the world around us. Deep down, it consists in thinking as if reality, goodness, and truth automatically flow from technological and economic power as such. As a logical consequence, it then becomes easy to accept the idea of infinite or unlimited growth, which proves so attractive to economists, financiers, and experts in technology. The Pope then calls on us to rethink our use of power and our technocratic paradigm. He also critiques, again quoting, the economy and the way we conceive it. The mentality of maximum gain at minimal cost, disguised in terms of reasonableness, progress, and illusory promises, makes impossible any sincere concern for our common home and any real preoccupation about assisting the poor and the needy discarded by our society. He later says, once and for all, let us put an end to the irresponsible derision that would present the issue as something purely ecological, green, romantic, frequently subject to ridicule by economic interests. Let us finally admit that it is a human and social problem on any number of levels. For this reason, it calls for the involvement of all. He continues, quoting, I cannot fail in this regard to remind the Catholic faithful of the motivations born of their faith. I encourage my brothers and sisters to do the same, since we know that authentic faith not only gives strength to the human heart, but also transforms life, transfigures our goals, and sheds light on our relationship to others and with creation as a whole. He says, today we see ourselves forced to realize that it is only possible to sustain a situated anthropocentrism. To recognize, in other words, that human life is incomprehensible and unsustainable without other creatures. For as part of the universe, all of us are linked by unseen bonds and together form a kind of universal family, a sublime communion which fills us with a sacred, affectionate, and humble respect. He then asks everyone to accompany this pilgrimage of reconciliation with the world that is our home and to help make it more beautiful, because that commitment has to do with our personal dignity and highest values. So it's really wonderful to see that the Pope has finally caught on to the basic principles of Agaya and Ubuntu. Way to go, Pope Francis. Thank you. But I just wanted to share that to illustrate that this connection, this spiritual response to the crisis that we are in right now, is becoming more pervasive, more widely recognized, and reaching diverse communities. So whatever your spirituality, even if you see yourself as a not particularly spiritual person, by virtue of being human, there is no doubt that this is getting to you somewhere. And there is every indication that we need spiritual community to help us through this kind of crisis. Novasutras is here with the intention to provide that to people who are either not finding enough earth connection in their existing spiritual community, or who have not found a spiritual community that resonates for them, that appreciates their earth connection. So I invite you to think about the ways that we might create together a spiritual community that serves those needs, that can help provide the strong foundations of doing the work that the world is calling to be done. And so, just to remind us, it is in that convergence of spiritual people becoming active and active people becoming spiritual that the hope of humanity now rests. So finding that balance, finding the way to make those connections to come together in community. That's what we're here for. I want to share a little bit more to look at globally what happened, the global mobilizations to end fossil fuels that happened in the middle of September. This wonderful video has been put together that I want to share now. So I realize I need to approach that a different way. Here we go. So you can see that this is not just a movement of, rich folks in wealthy countries. This is a movement that is happening everywhere.
Is here, it is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. Here at global
people who are taking tremendous personal risk to stand up and speak up. Recognizing that the only way forward is to transform as rapidly and fairly as we can away from fossil fuels. One of the hashtags was fast, fair, forever. The world is ready to change. People all around the world are calling for change. And it is by coming together, by standing up and calling for change, that we make that change impossible to ignore. That we force the powerful to listen. And we have that example in Norway, that tremendous transition that happened because of people showing up and pointing out subsidies for fossil fuels. The people even realized that that was happening in their name, in their democratically elected government. Now that people are really living through the experiences of climate change and what it means, the understanding that we must do something right now, and that there are ways to change the system that we can choose right now. They're being demanded all around the world. Now, as we talked about in the last live stream here, try not to use the language of fight, especially in this context, because 90% of the people out there are potential allies. It's really just a tiny minority that is not open to change. And we can ignore them because there are so much more. We are so much more numerous than they are. We are all around the world. We need to focus on how many people can become allies in transformation. So I encourage you to take heart in how global this message is, in how much power there is in coming together, in saying out loud the kind of change that we want, in highlighting the injustices. We can do this. So, next, I want to move on to some actions you can take this week. One thing that I wanted to share with people is that we have coming up starting tomorrow, more in the realm of an event than an action, but sorry, trying to get this worked out here, is this Inner Development Goals Summit. I don't know the details about how to get connected to that, but that's something you might want to find out more about. I also wanted to share the Kickstarter launch for a wonderful magazine that I've supported their initial year, Solar Punk Magazine. And I think I'm going to skip playing that video, but I'll put the link in the description here. after the video here. This was the link that I wanted to share. Here we go. So what Solarpunk magazine is, their tagline here, radically hopeful fiction, poetry, nonfiction, and art. So you may be familiar with this notion of solarpunk. Solarpunk is an aesthetic in largely in fiction and art that emphasizes community and environmental justice and living in better connection with nature from a science fictional, future-oriented standpoint. So it's basically telling hopeful stories about the future. Not that everything works out great. Just a straight up utopia can be boring, but compelling stories that show that we can solve some problems and come together around them. So if this sounds interesting to you and you want to back this project, there is a Kickstarter open right now that will get you into their subscription for their next year of publication. And you need to do that before November 9th. There are a couple that are location specific that I really wanted to let people know about. And where did that go? Here we are. One is just to help publicize the American Climate Leadership Awards for high school students. So these are students who are making change in their local communities. If you know a student who's doing this, reach out to them directly and apply, help them apply. Or if you just have ways to reach out to communities where there might be those high school students and get this publicized so that it can really make the rounds on whatever social media you might use to help let people know, which is what I'm doing right here, right now. If you're in the US, and particularly if you're in California, I also really encourage you to write a public comment in support of Chumash Sanctuary. The public comment period is open for 60 days. They have a petition, some guidance for writing personal letters, or encouraging you maybe to even go and speak at a NOAA meeting. Your business or organization can write a letter of support. And again, they've got sample letters and more information about that. So I encourage you to do that. We have signed on. Novasutras is here. This is their partnership page. And this was the local Novasutras chapter in Santa Cruz that got listed as a Central Coast civic organization. So really encouraging you to write a support letter about this. There's a lot of power coming at it as a California voter. But I believe even if not, you can sign the petition and write a personal letter to add your comments so that they understand that this is something that people are concerned about internationally. And there was some issue with what's going on with it that you might want to read up a little bit more and then help support protecting the marine sanctuary there along the central coast of California. Okay. So I think at this point, I would like to just take us into our meditation. So I'm going to offer this as a little visual and invite us to settle in for a little connection with the earth community. So wherever you are, see if you can get yourself a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more relaxed. You might sit down and let your weight really drop down. See if you can relax your shoulders and let them drop a little bit. And then start to attend to your breath. Noticing the air moving in and out. As you close your eyes or maybe just soften your gaze. Listen to the quiet sound of your own breathing. Feel the sensation of the air moving into you, of the breath moving out of you. And recognize that as an animal that breathes, every moment, interdependence with the rest of the living world. When you draw in a little bit of the world's atmosphere, you are taking in oxygen that was breathed out by some living, green, and growing thing. Maybe by the plant in your room, the tree right outside your window, the grasses on a distant hillside, the forests of the Amazon. This swirling, yet thin and fragile skin of atmosphere around our planet means that everything is in motion and mixing. And when you breathe out, you are contributing to that motion and offering back the carbon that was once part of your food, that some molecule of oxygen helped you break apart, unlocking and releasing the sun's energy that was in that food. And now you are letting that carbon go back into the atmosphere to be breathed once again by the living green world, by microscopic plankton in the world's oceans, by giant sequoia trees, by orchids and dandelions, by rice paddies and pumpkins. That power of our breath is channeled through our unique human bodies, allowing us to think, allowing us to act, allowing us to speak. These modifications of our exhalation that allow us to communicate our ideas, our thoughts, to whisper, I love you, or to shout about an injustice. We can raise our voice together, singing, chanting, feeling that resonance of the power of community. We know that there are both subtle and harsh ways that people are silenced in this world. So those of us who can speak up and speak out have an obligation to speak for those who can't. Not that we can claim to understand them and what they need perfectly, not that we should allow the silencing of those voices to continue, but that we should speak in ways that help make more room for more people to raise their voices that had previously been silenced. We are learning how to do this slowly, sometimes clumsily. But we know that if we move forward with open hearts and clear intentions for the well-being of all, for true justice, that we can help the messages that need to be heard become audible, that we can share good news, strategies and solutions, but for all voices to truly be audible, we must also make space for silence, for peace, and deep, deep listening. We open our hearts with compassion, and we open our ears. The wisdom we can gain will make all the difference. So listening, even for the softness of a breath, holding still, with focused intention that all beings have the opportunity to thrive. We are helping to create that future. See if you can feel that more positive future in your heart. A future where all can be heard, where those people who have been silenced can be heard, but also where songbirds can be heard, where bumblebees can be heard, perhaps even where the growing grass can be heard. So that together we create that thriving future. Take one more deep breath in and let it out with an offering of gratitude and compassion to all beings. Take another breath in, letting the energy that they are offering you fill you up inside and move through you. Feel that energy as you inhale and exhale, moving up to the crown of your head, that you might make wise decisions and good choices. Moving to your ears, that they might be more open to the quiet messages of the world. Moving to your mouth and throat, that you might speak from a place of compassion, dedication, and good intention. Moving across your shoulders, your arms, and your hands, that you might find strength and dexterity to do good work in the world. Moving down the still, balanced center of you. Moving down to your hips and legs, and all the way down to the soles of your feet. That you might move yourself into those places in the world where your gifts are most needed and most welcomed. Start to bring a little motion into your toes, into your fingers, into your hands and feet, your legs and arms, hips and shoulders, spine and neck, and bringing your focus back up. Open up your eyes with great compassion and gentleness, and look for the beauty that is around you as a reminder of what is worth working for in this world. Remembering that as we work to heal the earth heals us. I hope that you will find out more about Novasutras, get connected with us on the Deep Transformation Network, follow us on our other social media channels and on Insight Timer. Get involved in our group on Insight Timer as well. And look for our events, things that we have coming up. Well, these first two have already happened. But we have a meditation tomorrow over Zoom that you can join us for. Tomorrow is International Day of the Girl. Great thing to celebrate. We are also in the midst of Earth Science Week. Unitarian Universalists have a Ministry for the Earth meditation on Thursday morning. And the Agayan Way has a book club conversation a little later on Thursday. On Friday, I will be offering a meditation on Insight Timer Live for the dark of the moon, a little bit before the partial eclipse and new moon that's happening the following day. I won't be available to be online for that, so doing that a little bit early to prepare us. The Novasutras group has our mid-month reconnection meditation on Sunday. On Monday, People versus Fossil Fuels and Build Back Better have their strategy gathering. On Tuesday, the listening space is open on Deep Transformation Network. Oh, but even before that, on Deep Transformation Network and over Zoom is our next meditation for regeneration. And through the months of October, November, and December, we will have meditation for regeneration sessions every week. But these are at different times of the day to accommodate different time zones. The 18th, International Pronouns Day and World Okapi Day. And the 18th is also our quarterly Circle of Agaya and Ubuntu chat. So this is where our Patreon patrons and our uplifters, and thank you again to our Patreon supporters, but people who have actively expressed or contributed towards building Novasutras are invited to come together. So if you haven't become a Patreon supporter yet, now is a great time to do that. And then you can join us for that Circle of Agaya and Ubuntu chat. And again, if financial support isn't easily accessible, perhaps you'll want to become an uplifter and help us out in other ways. So that is happening on the 18th. I also somehow haven't gotten this on the calendar, but for people who are interested in the process of developing an eco-spirituality course and want to help us talk about that, that's coming up on the 18th as well. Deep Transformation Network is having And inner development goals, I've got them listed as different things in different places, but the empathy and compassion practice together on Deep Transformation Network happens on Thursday. There is our friends at the Agaya Way are offering a welcome session on Thursday as well. And I believe the Friends of Eurostack have their monthly meeting. That's on California Central Coast if you're interested in connecting with them. Then the 21st is the first quarter moon, and I have not yet had a chance to schedule a meditation for that, but there will be one associated with that time somewhere around in there. On the 24th, we'll have another meditation for regeneration. And somewhere in here, I should have scheduled also our next live stream, but I don't have that at hand. So that is coming up, I believe, also on the 24th. So lots of things coming up. The events page will be updated, so you can check that out in a little while. If you're watching this recording after the live stream event, you can see that. You'll find more information there. Again, thank you so much to our Patreon supporters who help me keep a good internet connection and have a good microphone and all of the other things that are necessary to make this happen. Do hope that you'll join us again and go to the novasutras.org website to learn more about us. Thank you for all that you do toward a thriving future for all beings. Ubuntu and Agaya. Be well.